Thank you everyone for being here. It's really exciting to spend some time with you today talking about how to make the most of the upcoming Society for Freshwater Science virtual meeting. We're going to introduce ourselves in a couple of moments here, but I wanted to make everyone aware that we are recording this presentation to share it with people who couldn't be here tonight. We will not be recording the question and answer portion. So long as you don't talk before the question and answer session, your screen should not come up on the recording. If you have any questions, feel free to save them to the end, and you can ask them at the end in the question and answer session, either in the chat or we'll let people raise their hands. So with that, let me see if I can advance the slide. My name is Laura Naslund. I am a second year PhD student at the University of Georgia, and I'm a member of the Student Resources Committee Undergraduate Affairs Committee, who is putting on today's program. My pronouns are she, her, and I like studying greenhouse gases in streams. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-hosts. Let's start with Phoenix.
Hey guys, my name is Phoenix. I'm a PhD student at the University of Alabama. My PGPs are he, him, his. I am currently studying the impacts of future warming on insect communities in forests and streams. So if you guys love climate change, or maybe not love it, but if you love talking research about climate change or bugs, I would love to chat more with you.
Hi, I'm Emily Arsenault, she, her. I'm a PhD student at the University of Kansas, and I study fish food webs in rivers. We'd love to hear from all of you. If you'd like to just type into the chat a little bit about you, introducing yourself, your name, pronouns, what college or university you're at, and any freshwater interests you have. Give you a couple minutes to do that. Hi, Sam.
Hey, all. I feel like my Wi-Fi is terrible, so I'm not using video, but awesome to see everybody. And yeah, currently enjoying stream fieldwork in the Smokies of Tennessee. It's pretty great.
Sam is our intrepid leader of the Undergraduate Affairs Committee.
Great. Hi, Max. Hi, Ashley. Great to see you all. We can probably move on, but if you all want to continue introducing yourselves in the chat as we go, that would be awesome. So we really have 3 goals for our workshop today. We're going to give you a chance to reflect on your goals for this SFS 2021 virtual meeting. We're going to give you some time to think about setting a meeting schedule that aligns with those goals that you have personally. And then we're going to really break it down and try to give you some tips and advice for getting the most out of the meeting, what all the different things in the schedule mean, and things like that. And then we will have a question and answer session at the end. So as Laura said, feel free to hold your questions, or you can put them in the chat early if you don't want to forget them or something, but we'll address them at the end. All right. So the first thing we want you to do is just take some time to reflect on your own personal goals for the SFS meeting. And as just some personal examples, as the 3 of us who are putting this workshop together, we're thinking back to all of our experiences at past SFS meetings and what we all got out of those. And, it's time to make friends, time to maybe find some potential colleagues that you'll work with in the future. And as one specific example for me, when I was an undergrad, actually, I used kind of the abstract search from the SFS conference way back in 2014 to identify potential graduate school mentors. And that is kind of where I built my list of potential grad school mentors to contact after the meeting. So there's lots of ways you can network, lots of different opportunities. We'll go through a bunch of different options. But first, we want to just give you a few minutes, maybe take 3 minutes just to reflect on your own. We'll give you some quiet space for that, about what your personal goals are for attending this meeting this year. Maybe you want to jot them down or just think about them for a few minutes. All right, that feels like enough time for me. Hopefully it was for all of you as well. Does anyone want to share in the chat some goal that you came up with? Feel free to do that. Otherwise, we can move on for now, I think. All right. So feel free to share your goal as well as we go through this slide. So we wanted to just show you the meeting schedule at a glance here, but we're going to spend the next chunk of slides breaking down what is a plenary, what is a contributed session, poster session, all of that, different events in a lot more detail. But a couple of things to be aware of just looking at this year's schedule for SFS here is that we do have both live events and pre-recorded sessions that you can go and watch at any time. But do note that all of the live events here and presentations here are in Eastern time. If you're in a different time zone, definitely don't feel like you need to wake up super early or stay up super late to be at every single one of these things. It's really just about doing what you want to plan the conference and the week that you want to match your personal goals. Yeah, Phoenix, I think it's you. Take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. So one of the events that I highly encourage everyone to attend, if they can, are these plenaries. Now, these are going to be occurring from noon to 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The presidential address is Monday, and then these other plenary speakers are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now, these are not only great talks, but also great talking points for conversations throughout the conference. For example, if something really great sticks out from one of their talks, you could bring that up later on to start a conversation in one of the coffee breaks, for example. But if you can't attend these, please try to, because they are, again, great talks and great talking points for later on down the road. Also, speaking of talks, there are what's called contributed and special sessions. And just so you're not confused when you see this, when the schedule comes out, or I guess the schedule is out, but when you are deciding on which talks to go to, you might see a C in front of the talk or an S. The C refers to a contributed session or a standing recurring session. These are more traditional topics, I would say, such as wetland ecology or climate change, invasive species. Whereas our special sessions, these are sessions that members of the community propose and invite speakers to contribute to. So these are usually more specific, and I like to think of them as more up and coming ideas. But again, just so you're aware, there are contributed and special sessions. Next slide, please. Now, with all the talks, it is definitely a little overwhelming. When you go on and you look at the schedule even briefly, you'll see that there are hundreds and hundreds of talks that you go to. And you can click that link there to look at a brief schedule of those different talks. And it can be kind of overwhelming trying to decide which talks to go to and making the most of this conference. Some ways to narrow down and figure out which talks you should actually attend. If it sounds interesting and exciting to you, obviously go for it if you can, right? Try to watch it. If it's relevant to the area that you're in now or in an area that you'd like to go into, definitely try to check it out. If it's someone giving the talk, if it's someone that you know or you met at the meeting and you want to hear more about the work that they're doing, then give it a shot. Go check it out. Same thing if it's recommended to you. There's a ton of reasons to go check out the different talks, and you won't be able to see them all. That's okay, but make the most of it and try to use these ideas to narrow down which talks you want to go to. Another note, another thing to consider is that watching all the talks in a specific session can be especially beneficial, because oftentimes these talks will build off each other for the special sessions, and it can lead to some great conversations. Also, new this year, SFS is having what's called these moderated discussions, and I'll talk about this later on in another slide, but it's another way to increase conversation with these presentations and different research topics. So with the plethora of talks that you can attend, it isn't, I shouldn't say if you get lost in a talk, it's more so when you get lost in a talk. First off, don't freak out. It happens to everyone, right? There's so many different presentations, and some are gonna be really great and some might not, and they might get lost in it, and that's fine. And some things that might help you get through that, you could write down some keywords or concepts that you could look up afterwards. might help make more sense later on if you can identify, maybe they're using some terminology that just went over your head. I'll look that up later on, and maybe it'll help tie that conversation or tie that presentation together. I also like to read the abstract while the presentation is going on. That kind of helps me, focus on the main points, because that's what the abstract should tell you in itself. Also, it's kind of a benefit of this virtual platform is that we can watch these presentations over again and again. Not that you want to rewatch the same presentation over 2 or 3 times, but it's there as an option in case you need to go back and rewind or rewatch a certain section. Another way to approach this too, if you do get lost, is you could look at it as like a learning point. You could tell yourself, okay, what about that presentation worked well and what didn't work well? What led to me getting lost in the first place, right? How can I learn from that and try to prevent that in my future presentations? That's a good way to approach it. So hopefully you guys will be able to attend some of the poster presentations this year. I love going to poster presentations in person. It's so fun, and just have like some organic conversations with people you've never met before about their work at these different poster presentations. It is a little overwhelming at first, I think, as a student coming to this for the first time, and you're not really sure what you should be doing at these presentations. Well, I really recommend the first thing you do is usually try to ask the student presenter about their work. Maybe ask them to explain it to you a little bit. Can you walk me through your poster? Can you tell me a little bit about your work? Can you give me like a 2-minute spiel of what you're doing or what your work is focused on? All right, try to just get them to explain to you what their work is about. That's a good thing to start the conversation with. After that, it's kind of up to you as to like what questions you want to ask. You can maybe ask them like what inspired you to research the subject. Maybe ask for clarification on things that just didn't quite make sense to you. Or if you can, maybe make some connections to other research ideas, right? Maybe there's an approach that you think might have worked better for them, and you could ask them, hey, have you considered using approach X instead of approach Y with your work? You could also maybe focus more on the results, see if there's anything about the results that surprise them. What do you think are the next steps for their work? And also a really important question, I think, what do you see as the broader implications of your findings? Right? What's the big picture takeaway from your work? I don't know how many of you are giving talks. If so, maybe like do like a little raise your hand emoji thing on there. I'm super curious to see. I saw at least one hand. If you guys are giving talks, super exciting, good for you. I'm stoked. You should maybe post it in the chat, say like when your talk is or when your poster presentation is. I'd love to see that. It's really important to advertise that, just because I know if you are doing this, if you are giving a presentation, you probably put in a ton of work. And the whole point of that is to get people to see your work and hear about your research. So it's important to have those shameless plugs whenever you can to share when your presentation is going to be. A couple ways you can do that, and honestly, one of the best ways you can do that is on Twitter. Now, if you don't have Twitter, that's okay. I'm already distracted enough by my phone. I will admit that. And so trying to download yet another app might be a little annoying, but having a professional Twitter in this field is really, really useful. I know Laura and Emily have a Twitter that they use just for work, and like that's great. If you have your own personal Twitter, you could also expand it and maybe make some work connections on there too. But again, a lot of people have their own just for work. So that is an idea for you guys. And so if you have Twitter, I recommend maybe making a post about your presentation. You could tag the SFS SRC account, and we'd love to retweet that then. You can use the hashtag 2021 SFS to draw more attention to it. You can also make some different ads or use Canva to make a Twitter-ready ad or post an image of your poster to make it more eye-catching. And also there's this SRC Twitter list, which I forgot to sign up for, so I feel a little guilty about this, but it's a way for you to make more connections to folks here at the SRC. And again, don't be shy about sharing with folks when your presentation is going to be, especially if it's someone that you think might be interested in your work. I get it. You might not be super confident in just like flaunting it around like, hey, I have my presentation on Tuesday, come check it out. But you never know, it might end up leading to some great connections or great conversations. So again, try to get word out there about the work that you're doing. All right, and I mentioned I was going to get to this later on with moderated discussions. Unfortunately, they haven't released a ton of information about this yet, but from what we do know is that moderators are going to lead discussions based on a series of talks and posters presented in the contributed and special sessions, and it's going to aim for lively discussions based on the research presented at the meeting. So the idea is just to get some more focused conversation on a general theme. And again, they haven't released a ton of information about this. We actually just copied and pasted this just from the SFS website. So this, you know, as much as we know about this now. So until they release more information about this, we're super curious to see what it's going to be like. But it's just an idea for something, an idea for you to get more involved into, get more involved in some of these conversations. But it is for both poster presenters and talk givers. So either if you're giving either one, you're more than welcome to attend here. And again, it is optional, but it could be a great opportunity. And I think that's all I had. I think I'm handing over the reins then to Laura now, right, Laura?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so speaking of things that are somewhat new this year, we also have coffee breaks daily from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning Eastern time, and then 4 to 5 p.m. Also at Eastern time. And these are themed discussions around some sort of topic, and they are very far ranging from show off your pets to play the game Among Us, learn about the hyporeic zone, let's talk Trichoptera, and meet the SFS fellows. So these talks are going to be super wide ranging and great opportunities to connect with other people. And speaking of connecting with other people and other scientists, we're now going to transition into talking about intentional networking. So I'm sure you're all aware, but it bears repeating that you cannot understate the importance of having a network of collaborators and mentors within this field. And what I want to encourage you all is that if there is someone that you would like to meet, just go ahead and send them an email before or after the conference to ask for a meeting and to expand your connections. Whether that's a potential graduate school advisor, someone who wrote a paper that's really relevant to your research, or just anyone, someone whose talk that you see at the conference that, inspired you to think about some other topic, or someone that you just see could more broadly be a mentor for you. This is a really great way of connecting with people. And we'll go into, in a second, some examples of what these emails can look like. But the important things here is that it doesn't need to be a long email. In fact, it's probably better if it's short, 4 to 6 sentences. But there should be a clear ask. So it should be really clear what it is you're asking of this person and why you want to talk to them. The rule of thumb, I think, with academics and emails is that people often don't respond to emails on the first try, and that is completely, it does not reflect anything about you or about your request. And if somebody that you want to talk to doesn't respond to your email request, anywhere between 4 to 5 days after, it's completely fine to send a follow-up. If you don't hear back then, you can wait another 4 to 5 days and send another follow-up. And if after that, you still really need to talk to this person, but they haven't emailed you, that's when you should start exploring other options of how to contact this person. Or if it's not essential that you talk to this person, then maybe that's your giving up time. One thing that I find really helpful as a super introvert is when I'm trying to meet someone new, I often ask people for an introduction. So if I know someone like my advisor or maybe a professor in my program, or even, someone's graduate student who knows the person that I want to talk to, I find it really helpful to ask the person that I know for an introduction to the person that I don't know. And of course, this works really well in a conference when you're in a big, crowded meeting hall and you don't want to just kind of awkwardly approach somebody, which actually is completely fine and not awkward at all. But this also works over email. So you can ask, say, your advisor to send an email where they copy you to just make that introduction. And I find it helps grease the wheels a little bit. So speaking of emails, let's get into a couple of examples. And here I would encourage you to take screenshots. These are kind of what I think is a pretty good template of what kind of these emails can look like. So this first one is an example email to someone that you want to talk to about your research. And it's very simple. As you can see, it's very short. It starts out with a greeting, "Dear Dr. Mayfly." And here I'll note that if somebody has a PhD, it's good to refer to them as Dr. last name until they tell you not to, as kind of a general rule of thumb. In the first line, you're just introducing yourself. My name is Awesome Freshwater Scientist, and I'm working on a project looking at this cool freshwater thing. Doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be intricate, doesn't have to have a lot of jargon in it, but just telling people who you are. And then in the next sentence, you're telling them, why you want to talk to them and what you want to talk about. So I've read your work on X, and I'd love to talk to you about Y. And here you can make the connection. If you are contacting them before the meeting, you can say something like, I'm planning to attend the SFS virtual meeting, and I saw that you were also attending. Would you be willing to set up a 30-minute meeting to talk during or after the conference? And so this is what I was talking about when I said making a clear ask, making it clear, what do you want to talk to them about and for how long do you want to talk to them? I found that 30 minutes is a really good amount of time for someone that you've never met before that you want to talk to you about research. It's just enough, I think, to really get into the meat of a topic, but not too much if you you're going to run out of things to talk about. And it's also, most people are pretty busy, but I would say most people can fit a 30-minute meeting into their schedule. So I think that's a perfectly fine ask. And then in the last line, you can just preempt some back and forth on the email chain by just telling them in advance, here are the times and dates that I'm available. And you might want to add another sentence like, I can be flexible if that is true. Sign off with a salutation and your name. The next example email is very similar. This is to a potential graduate school advisor, and we're not going to read this verbatim. So if you are interested in applying for graduate school and you want some language, this is the template that I use to write out my graduate school emails. A couple things I'll draw your attention to is that in this email, I think it's helpful to have in the very first line what your purpose is in contacting them. And that's just so, if somebody knows, oh, my lab doesn't have any funding, they're not reading several paragraphs into your introduction to be able to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have any information. And I think it's also very good to be very clear about your intentions, particularly with, what kind of graduate position you're interested in and when you want to start. Then you can also give them some information about what you are doing in life at the moment. And then in this third sentence, again, you're telling them, why you're interested in their work and maybe just a little bit about what you see yourself doing in graduate school. Again, this isn't something that you have to have like a fully fleshed out proposal, but just giving people an idea of why you're contacting them. So the last type of email that we're going to talk about is a follow-up to solidify a connection. And so say you meet someone at SFS in the mentor-mentee mixer at a coffee break, and you want to follow up with them on something that you talked about, or you just want to, add this person to your network. You want to make sure that they remember your name so that you can contact them later, or, have, some other sorts of conversations with them later. Here you give the typical greeting. It was so nice to meet you at the Intermittent Streams coffee break last week. I really enjoyed talking with you about different sampling techniques for invertebrates. Would you be interested in continuing our conversation so that I can choose an appropriate sampling technique for my undergraduate thesis project? Would you be available to discuss this further over email or a short Zoom? And again, here, one of the essential elements is, you're making that connection of why you want to talk to this person. In this case, it's easier because you've already talked to them before. And there's a really clear ask, like, can you discuss this one topic over email or a short Zoom? So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Emily to talk about some Student Resources Committee events during the virtual meeting.
Yeah, so we really wanted to highlight these events for you all to be aware of. So first, the Student Resources Committee, or you'll see it abbreviated as SRC, orientation is on Monday of the meeting. Attending that is a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about what's going on the student side of SFS. So you'll hear about student-led committees and events. For example, the three of us, Laura, Phoenix, and I, have put together this workshop on behalf of the Undergraduate Affairs Committee. So that's one potential place to get involved or just thing to hear more about. Yeah, we kind of want to see if we could even get some undergrads to join us in this committee, because that would make a lot of sense. So if you're interested in kind of seeing if you can get involved, that would be a great one to attend. The mentor-mentee mixer is always a highlight for me. I've made a lot of great connections and gotten some good career advice in past mixer events from past SFS conferences. So this will be on Wednesday of the conference. I did learn a little bit about what the format of this will look like. So sounds like there will be a few different Zoom rooms where the mentors are staying put, but the mentees, so all of us as students, can kind of freely move around. The different rooms that the mentors are in are going to be focused around specific kind of career sectors. So learning more about academia or research or government or industry. And for undergrads, there will, I hear, be a specific room where there's only graduate student mentors who can be a better mentor maybe to someone at the undergraduate level. So that could be your room if you're an undergrad potentially. Yeah. And then just one thing we wanted to say about that too is, this is a great place for getting advice, whether it's about your project or your career or whatever your next step is going to be. But remember, you don't have to take every piece of advice you hear, take it all with a grain of salt, and remember what your personal goals are and what you're looking to get out of it. All right. And then, we wanted to give you some tips. Being on Zoom or on whatever this conference platform is going to look like for a week straight could be a little exhausting if you don't give yourself breaks. So just a couple of tips along those lines, taking care of ourselves during that week and building in breaks. So a great tip is to follow the 20-20-20 rule, which is to every 20 minutes, look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. It's a good way to kind of reset the eyes and the brain and refocus for a second. Another thing I've been finding really helpful now that our lives are more on the computer than ever is installing a blue light filter app on your computer that could help, just the stress on your eyes during this week. Definitely try to schedule offline breaks. So it's pretty unrealistic to think you're going to attend every single event of the conference and watch every single talk that's posted. So, remember to schedule breaks and to just stick to the goals that matter most to you. And of course, there is the SFS Fun Run, which I'm sure we'll be hearing more information about soon. But we always have a fun run at SFS. There's always lots of costumes involved, and it's always a really fun time to just reset and get outside and hang out with people during the conference. So if you're a runner or if you want to just try it out for this one week, definitely participate in that.
Okay, so I know we've been just blasting you guys with information, and I apologize. It's definitely information overload, and it might be a little overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go to these mentor-mentee mixers, the coffee breaks, all these plenaries, these different talks. It's a lot. It's a little overwhelming. I get it. But we wanted to create something fun to keep you guys engaged and keep you motivated to attend these different events and to get involved. And so as a way to do that, we created this bingo card that you see here. This will be available on the SFS SRC Twitter page soon, as well as the, well, you can request it from our email too. If you just send us an email, we'll send it to you closer to the conference. But basically, it's a bingo card that you will be completing by getting more involved in the conference. And so by attending these plenaries, by viewing different talks from different sessions, by meeting new grad students, meeting new undergrads, attending different workshops or different events or the fun run, getting involved in the conference. And if you do that, if you get bingo, the rules for this are included in the sheet. If you get bingo by doing these different activities, then we'll mail you a SFS sticker after the conference. So woo, who doesn't love free stickers, right? It's an easy, fun way to get involved and again, keep you focused on making the most of the conference while you're here. If you guys have any questions about it, please feel free to email us at our SFS UAC email, or else drop a question in the chat and we can get to it at the end. But again, it's just supposed to be there as a fun way to get more involved and to help you guys make the most of this summer fun here.
Sorry, I lost my unmute button. So speaking of getting help, if you do run into problems at the meeting, here are a couple of places you can get help. As Phoenix said, you can email our Undergraduate Affairs Committee email. We'll have people who are checking it daily. So if you have any questions, feel free to use that email. We've posted the link to the FAQ on the annual meeting website. Pretty soon, they should also be posting some, meeting platform specific help information. So if you're having trouble with the platform or accessing any of the links, hopefully that will be posted soon. You can also ask Twitter to ask the Student Resources Committee Twitter handle, which again is SFS_SRC. And very exciting, we started a GroupMe for SFS 2021 students. And so we're hoping that this is just a space for people to get to know each other. As I was talking about networking earlier, I think a lot of us probably think about networking with, professors or, postdocs. I think it's equally important that we get to know each other because we're each other's colleagues now. And I can't tell you the number of times that graduate students that I've met at SFS or otherwise have been huge resources to me, or other undergraduates. I first attended SFS as an undergraduate, and it's fun that some of those people that I met are now graduate students. So yeah, hopefully this can be a good space for you as well. And then the last thing I wanted to plug is the second workshop hosted by our committee. That's going to be on Thursday, May 20th from 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern. We have a lineup from across the Student Resources Committee, lots of really awesome people who are going to be talking about social media, how to use it for science, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within the society, what student involvement looks like within SFS, and some tricks and some sharing experiences about pursuing graduate school. So this is going to be more of a Q&A sort of panel, although we're going to get to Q&A in a second. So yeah, really encourage you guys to sign up for that workshop as well. And if you need a link to that registration, please let us know.